Affairs Enrollment Management. Well, if you'll notice up on the board, our news and noteworthy up there, there's one coming up. I'm not going to talk about that one quite yet. Come on, keep moving. That one, where's our division from? This is one of the table exercises from the last where you put where you were from, and it's gone now. It'll be coming back shortly. Kudos to Chelsea Middleton for she over here for she made the map. Yeah. We got skills. We got skills in this division, just saying. So thank you all for doing that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing I am going to say, we'll go ahead and address the one that says we're going to be starting this meeting at 8:30 from now on. I want to tell you why we're doing that. And I appreciate Teresa because earlier on in the summer I said, I think we're going to start this meeting at 8:30, and she changed all the reservations, and then I came back to her and said, nope, we're going back to 10 o'clock. She changed all the reservations. Now we're back to 8:30 going out. And the reason why, some of you know that I have been the de facto director of health services for the last 2 months, and there's no end in sight yet until we actually get an administrator there. So I'm going to be acting in that capacity. And what I realized through that process is that there really is in that office a very important aspect of scheduling. Not that it's not in other offices, but they have something that's somewhat different than some other offices in that some of these issues are a little more emergent than maybe just some of our other offices that we can say, oh, well, we can wait until 10 o'clock to see you or 11 o'clock to see you. And so one other issue in that department was we never had a schedule. It was completely walk-in, so we never had a schedule where people felt good about leaving to come to a meeting like this and to hear about what was happening in the division. So we've done a little bit of a transformation. Okay, I thought I was hearing voices, but I thought maybe they were just in my own head, so I didn't know that. Thank you. Which isn't that unusual. But anyway, so we've been working really hard at creating a directed schedule, a professional schedule for that office, including a completely appointment-based system, and we're working through the processes. And you can imagine your office if you had to reconceptualize your schedule completely and how that might work. We've been working through that. So one of the outcomes of that was that we were able to create a time frame in that office where they could actually have meetings. They never really had meetings. It was all impromptu. They got together in the hallway. Patients going in and out of rooms and all those kind of things. And so we created a Thursday morning time frame for that. So now they have every week they have a time frame in Thursday mornings, which will coincide with this. But we didn't want it to go clear so deep into the day, into the time when they had most of their students. So that's why we're moving it forward to 8:30. This is a special accommodation for some of our brothers and sisters in our division, and so I appreciate you allowing that to happen and adjusting to that so that they could experience our division, become even more a part of our division through that experience. So that's what's going to happen from here on out. 8:30 to 9:30 will be this meeting, and I was assured by all the directors that everybody is here and ready to work at 8:30 every morning anyway, so we're all good for that. But that's what's going to happen. So next month it'll start at 8:30 and go to 9:30, and that gets you into your day. That'll be an adjustment. We did it at this rate because we know offices may already have appointments booked for the rest of this month, so we didn't want to do it for today's. And so that'll give you some time to adjust for your future months. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is what we always do, and that is our housekeeping of any new employees that have not yet been introduced to the division through one of our staff development meetings. Okay, so any new full-time employees that have not been introduced yet to our division through a staff development meeting, if you will stand up, and I'll make my way around to you.
We got some grad students too.
Oh, graduates, first year graduate students also. Go ahead, stand up. Now, because of that, yeah, there we go. Okay, so people just applauded for the graduate students, but let's go ahead and applaud for all the full-time employees. That's great. So we're going to have to do this quickly because we have to get into our content. So I want you to say what your name is and what office you work for.
I am Rachel Fisher, and I work for the Center for Adult Learners and Veterans.
All right.
I'm Jennifer Summers, and I work for the
It's not getting exercise.
Hi, my name is Mary Carmen Patoa, and I work for the Center for Diversity and Inclusion.
Morning, I'm Melanie Richard, and I work for Housing and Residence Lab.
Hi, my name is Ashley Owens, and I work for Housing and Residence Lab. Hi, my name is Katie Gardner, and I work for the Center for Student Affairs. Good morning, I'm Amber Open, and I work for Housing and Residence Lab.
Hi, my name is Brady Burnett, and I work for Housing and Residence Lab.
Hello, I'm Peyton Cantrell, and I work for the Center for Student Involvement.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, my name is Andrew Flush and I work for Tech Services.
Sorry. I'm Brittany Scary, and I work for Career Services.
I'm Michelle Davidson, and I work for undergraduate admissions. I'm Meg Friedman, I work for Housing and Residence Lab.
Hi, I'm Alexa Stinson. I work for the Enrollment Services Center.
I'm Nicole Ryan, I work for Center Interactive.
I'm going to work my way this way.
My name is Chris Keller, and I work for University Recreation.
My name is Ally Lucian. I work for First Year Experience.
I'm a Pisces, I like long walks.
Hi, my name is Megan Sullivan, and I work for the newly formed Office of Community Affairs.
Josh Groggy, Housing and Residence Lab.
Good morning, Roger Newell, Housing and Residence Lab.
Hi, I'm Grace Wilson, and I work for Housing and Residence Lab as well.
Caleb Nichols, Center for Student Involvement.
Sierra Davis, Housing and Residence Lab.
Hi, I'm Sarah McDaniel, and I work for University Recreation. Hey, I'm Erin Mitchell, and I work for University Recreation.
And I am Scot Lingrell. I work for the Vice President's office, mostly for Teresa. Thank you. Okay, so this time, you can go ahead and do the other presentation. This time is the time of the year, we've done this for the last 3 years, where I kind of do a little bit of state of the division, a little bit of what's happening, a little bit of the university background, scorecard, and then Engage West action items. So we're going to do this relatively quickly because there's, we've done this before. You kind of know the pace, the way that this goes, except for those new graduate students that are here. You've not seen this yet. But I want to go through the whole concept of where we are and where we're going, and help you understand a little bit about what you do every day and how that impacts our scorecard and what the university expects from us. And so, like many things, we start where we do what our vision is, and you already know this. We aspire to be the best comprehensive university in America, sought after as the best place to work. Okay, so with that as a backdrop, the way we do that, and some of you may have already seen some of these because these are slides that I unabashedly stole from our president in his presentation, the Vision 2020 presentation. We do that with Engage West as kind of the center core of what we try to do. So Engage West is as our understanding of creating the best place to work, learn, and succeed. But around that are the 4 pillars of our strategic plan: student success, academic success, scholarship success, and then operational success. And I know we've had, our strategic plan discussion just recently, so I'm not going to go deeply into our strategic plan at all. But know that it is very, very closely aligned to those 4 pillars in terms of what we're expecting to do. And then you'll notice around the outside, the package, the wrapping that's around the outside of all of this are our values as an institution. And this is the way we behave. This is the way this is how we know how we're going to do things. The values are the package under which we do all of this other thing. So it's really important to realize that that is what drives us. This representation really helps us understand what we're all about and what we want to do and where we are going. And so one of the things the president has been saying lately, and I really like, is kind of operationalizing this concept of Engage West. You know, Engage West is kind of a concept that if you don't say something else about it, people don't understand what it is. And so he's been using this language to operationalize Engage West. People, purpose, and action. And the concept is transforming our culture. So this past week, Tuesday, some of you know and some of you are actually in the class, I teach a class on higher ed administration. And we talked a little bit about this past week about culture and change and organizational structure, culture, and change. And one of the things that we know is that transforming our culture is very, very difficult. If you think about it, there are structures that we live with today and language that we live with today that started in the Middle Ages in terms of higher education. So the concept and the language of a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, that's all language that came from the Middle Ages in terms of how higher education started. Well, if we're still using that kind of a language, it's pretty clear that it's hard to change culture in higher education. And that's really what we're kind of trying to do with Engage West, moving from a culture of hierarchy and direction and kind of a dictator type of a leadership to a dispersed leadership that has more accountability and excellence and seeking that excellence at all levels of organization. And that's why we do LDIs, right? That's why we take 260 of our institutional leaders 4 times a year and do full one-day retreats. I want you to think about that in terms of the cost. Just the cost of one day, we do 4 of them, of taking all of our leaders and doing something that is not actually their job, teaching them the leadership, right? And so that represents a tremendous commitment that we have to the university. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the culture, trying to transform the culture so it can be better for our students. And so one of the things he talks about, and which I really agree with, is that we need to know, every one of us in our jobs, we need to know what to do. So in our jobs, what do we do? Why we're doing it. So you're not doing it just to accomplish the job. There's an end product. And I would suggest those end products are our 4 pillars in our strategic plan. The one that we're most connected with is student success. And then what we want to accomplish. So what's out there? What are we trying to accomplish by doing that? And so this is a long process of really for every person to take on themselves what we actually do, why we're doing it, what is the outcome that we're seeking, what's the impact we want on students, and then what do we want to accomplish. Part of that impact, but even a broader impact for the university, the system, our society, the transformation of lives. Those are the types of things that we're talking about. So you are part of that. As a matter of fact, every one of us has our own story around those 3 questions. And so I want you to really engage with that for yourself over this next year I want you to think about for yourself over that next year. Once you've thought about it for yourself, how does that connect with your department? How, and your own mission and vision and the actions and the goals within your department? How does your department then connect with the larger division? And how does the division connect with the university and so on, even to the university system? As we're preparing our budget presentation for the university system, one of the things we're doing is translating us into them. You know, how are we helping them accomplish their goals, and they give us resources to be able to do that. And that's our message to them. We're helping you do something. We need resources to be able to help you do something. And so that's kind of the direction here. So think about, especially over the next month or so, think about your answer to those questions. What do you do? Why are you doing it? And what are you meant to accomplish? Why do we even have a position like yours in that department, in this university, and what is it meant to accomplish? So I want you to think about that deeply. So we're not done with this, right? Engage West is a long process. Culture change does not happen overnight. We're in year 3 of what we're calling Engage West. The truth is that culture change takes forever. You know, it's not something that we are ever done with. And so we're plodding along. Part of that plodding along is the employee survey that will be coming up again in probably January, February timeframe. Part of that plodding along is the development of your departmental goals, which you should be kind of working through right now, and departmental budget that you should be in your department should be talking about right now, so that information can flow up to the Vice President's office so we can advocate for you and what you need to do in the budget process. But we've had some really great successes. Record enrollment. We'll end up somewhere around 13.3. Not sure exactly where that's going to be, but somewhere around there. Record degrees conferred, record scholarships awarded, record fundraising. We have steady and/or improving retention, progression, graduation rates, and something that just came out this year. Our 4-year graduation rate jumped from 15% to 19% in 1 year. That is an amazing change. I'm hoping it's not an anomaly of some sort. I believe it's because we've worked really, really hard at getting people 15 credits a term instead of just 12 credits a term. I think we probably can track it back to that, and also then our retention efforts, everything we do to keep students here. Record economic impact, that isn't as appropriate for us to think much about, but it is when the president talks to the legislature. They think about how we impact the economy. They think about how we impact our society. Faculty and staff merit and equity increases $7.3 million over this last 3 years. That is amazing, amazing in a time when many institutions are not experiencing growth and they're getting rid of people. They're having to lay people off. At Valdosta State, they had 33 2 years ago and another 20-some this year, or last year, and another 20-some this year. They're hurting. It's because of the enrollment. So when we talk about growth, it's important to talk about what is the purpose of that growth. Are we growing without purpose? That's not so good. And then how do we respond to the growth that we are getting? And I know that growth is creating tension. There's a lot of discussion right now about, is that tension too high for us? Are we growing at too big of a clip? And can we modify that in some way to be able to fit ourselves and make sure we're not killing everybody? And I'm feeling kind of tired right now because of the beginning of the fall. I know all of you are feeling kind of tired right now too because of the beginning of the fall. But we have to look at that. 99 new full-time faculty and staff in the last 3 years. Just amazing. Now your question is, where are we going to put them, right? Don't have much office space. I'm thinking the same thing in this budget cycle. If we even get one more position, where in the world are we going to put that person, right? So we're always thinking about these things and concerned about it. So in our area, and this is the exact slide the president used in his presentation. we're up there a lot, if you notice. So he knows our impact. Intrusive advising, we're doing the SSC. We've been able to increase scholarships, record scholarships, and then the gap funding has been really important for us. Targeted dual enrollment, move on when ready. It has exponentially increased over this 3 years. It's important that we wrap resources around that, but we also thank those people who are working really hard to make that happen. The entire extended leadership team were in a symposium this last week on LEAP, Liberal Education, America's Promise is what LEAP means. And it is just a recognition and actions towards a holistic development of the student, along academic lines, but also along experiential lines, and getting the entire experience. Our part of that is kind of called the Wolf experience, and that's what the student life directors have been working really hard on, developing this concept of the Wolf experience for our students. So it's all fitting together. You can start to see this concept. You may or may not have heard about it. A flywheel. So in Jim Collins' work on leadership, Good to Great, he talks about a flywheel, and at the beginning of getting that flywheel moving is really hard, right? You know what a flywheel is? It's connected to belts that run the machine, whatever the machine is. And so getting the beginning of that flywheel moving is really hard work. But once it's going, then it keeps going and it manifests its own energy to create itself and keeps going. And I believe our flywheel as a university is moving along. We've done a lot of the hard work to get it going, and now it's moving along. We still have to produce a little bit of work to get there, but it's working. LEAP is another one of those. You see the whole piece coming together, the whole engine is really working together. CCEC is the Carroll County Education Collaborative. There are some of you in this room that are actually in that group that develops that, but it is a kind of a cradle to grave type of a mentality about education. That people coming up, students coming up through the education system, creating opportunities for them, and us as a university being part of those opportunities, that once they graduate high school, they have something. They can go someplace, they can do something. They can go to a 2 years college. We're working closely with West Georgia Tech on this. So community college, 4-year college, military, or working through the career academies directly into some sort of career. So really looking at how our society is built and educating the whole to be able to be better for our society, and we're a big part of that. Certainly student leadership development is part of that. That's here in our department, but across the university. And adult completion, new markets of innovation. To reach our enrollment goals, we're going to have adult education on our campus at a much greater pace than what we do right now. And so we have some things opening up right now with Noonan. We have some things opening up with Major that are going to give us opportunities to not necessarily work so hard to get a greater share of the direct from high school market, but to expand our market so that our enrollment grows at the pace that we need it to feed this beast that we are in terms of the resources that we need. So there are lots of things going on, very great successes, and we need to be proud of that. We need to be proud, and I am certainly proud of our division and you for being able to put this together and doing a great job of all these successes. So with that, I'd like you to give yourself a round of applause. So evidence-based leadership accountability. So part of this is evidence-based. So every year when I sit down with the president in my evaluation, we pull this document out. This is the scorecard. If you have not seen it, this is what it is, right? And you can see across the top there, if something is in red, kind of an alert. If it's in yellow, there's an area of concern. If it's in a light green, the goal has been met. A little darker green, we've met a stretch goal. And if it's in dark green, we've met a super stretch goal. And so he looks at this, and he looks at me, and he looks back at this, and he says, so how have you done? What have you done? You need to know that I don't do any of this, right? You guys know that. I don't do this. This is the work of our division. This is your collective work that gets us to the end product, right? And so this year, this scorecard has been very much simplified. If you remember, you may remember last year, there were kind of subcategories of a lot of these things, and some of them we may have met in a different way as other ones. Well, this year, the president and I decided we're going to simplify this, and the things that are on here represent success of the whole area there, right? So last year, there may have been 3 or 4 things that we said, oh, let's measure this. Well, we can still measure those, but let's put one thing on here to really look at as a proxy, as a representation of the success of that area. So the very first one on there, student success is the imperative, so they're connected to the university imperative. And the goal is first-year retention. The weight of that on my scorecard, so 20% of my success, or our success as a division, is wrapped around the student success of retention, okay? And for that one, in this past year, we ended up, and this is fall of 15 numbers, okay? Because we don't have official fall of 14 numbers. No, I'm sorry, fall of 15 numbers. We don't have official fall of 16 numbers yet. So if you look at this, 72.54%, we projected that we would be around 75% by this time. And as you can see, not so good. That has a red off to the side, right? And so, of course, this was something we talked to the president about in December or so because we had just gotten our official numbers. And very much looking into why we're having these kind of numbers, right? We're putting a lot of resources, time, and energy into retention. So why are we doing this? And John is constantly trying to tweak some of the things that are happening here so we can do better on this measure. Again, for this fall, it's unofficial, but we're probably around that same 72.5, right? So now we begin to look, okay, is our goal appropriate? Is our goal appropriate for the type of institution we are and the nature of the students that come into us? So that's our next look at the inquiry on this. Is this typical, or is this maybe even better than what we might be expected to do based on the nature of the students that are coming to us? We have to figure that out. And the president has very clearly said to me, Scott, you need to figure this out because it's a red on my scorecard, right? Leadership accountability. The second one on there, again on student success, sophomore to junior progression. 20% is the weight on that one also. So complete between retention and progression into the junior year, sophomore to junior progression, 40% of what we think, or the president thinks, that we should be considering as success in our division is wrapped around those things. Now that one is a very good one. 59.14, that's above the 59%, which is the super stretch goal. So you're starting to see something very interesting there, right? If our progression in the second year is really great, and our retention in the first year is kind of average or not so great, there still may be a positive outcome on this because we're keeping more of the second year students to be third year students, to be fourth year students, and to graduate. So that helps my story. That helps the story when I'm sitting with the president. I can say, but look, didn't do so great in the first year. There may be some reasons for that. We'll look into that. But look at the second year. We're keeping more people to graduation. We're keeping more people into their junior year. Once we get them into the junior year, high percentage of those students actually graduate. They're very successful going out from there. You can scroll down a little bit. Total enrollment. Again, that's one that we blew out of the park. We blew it out of the park again this fall. It's a dark green, did very well. And again, all of you are part of the actions that get us to total enrollment. Most of you are part of the outcomes that also get us to retention and progression. So we did really great. Last fall we were at 12.834. We're going to be at 13.2 plus for 13.3 in that range this year, which was actually the upper middle of this next year's scale. So it'll probably be a 4 is what it'll end up in this next year's scale. Operational success, SAEM employee engagement. So not only is the enrollment important, but also we've been working on this Engage West thing, working really hard to be able to do things that are effective for Engage West, and we did really well there. 3.99, it's right, the goal has been met. 3.994, don't forget that 4 1/1000ths of a point there. It's very important. Where's Justin? See here? He would round that up, right? Probably to 4.3, but that's just Justin. So we did real well there. That's a light green. Go ahead and scroll down and see the next two of them, if you will. So student success, financial access, and success. Yeah, put both of those up there. So the next two were ones that we didn't have great data on to begin with. So I'm not discounting them at all. So I don't want you to think I'm not responsible, don't think they're important. But we don't have great data about them, and we're gathering better data and descriptions of them over time. And I'll show you what I mean by that as I describe it. So the first one there, student financial access and success, the number of student assistants. You might remember from last year, there were like 5 things in this category that described financial success for the students. We decided and boiled it down to, if we can get a sense as to the number of student assistants on our campus, that affects something. That affects their ability to earn. This includes both general student assistants and work study. Okay? So that affects their ability to earn and be engaged in our campus on one sense, and then it actually increases the finance, the amount of money that they have to do things on our campus. So it kind of hits both ways. You can look at that. Our goal was 1840 to meet. We were at 1732. That's actually down from the previous year. Working with Career Services, carrying those to understand this a little better. One of the things I think that is impacting this a little bit is that there are people that, especially over the summer, are not considered student assistants. They're considered temporary labor. So again, the data isn't great on this, but we're looking into it. Not that far off, but it's off of our goal that we had stated ahead of time. So that's why it's red. The one below is very similar to that. Development of the whole person through student engagement. So one of the things in our division, there's such a wide variety of functional areas, right? So we have functional areas that are responsible for retention, and functional areas that are responsible for mental and physical health, and functional areas that are responsible for recreation, and so lots of different functional areas. So how do you actually pull all that together and try to get a readable scorecard that everybody can feel good about? Well, one of the ways for us is to look at, okay, we know that student involvement is an important part of retention, an important part of a student's experience at an institution. We're moving towards the Wolf experience and the student life goals. So the percentage of students that are actually involved in something is probably an important thing. If we can get more students involved, the literature shows us that they are more successful. Well, this is striking a percentage of those students, undergraduate and grad students. So it's really looking at our data, who has swiped in, who has come to an event, or who has done something on this campus that is related to our division, and then what is the percentage of students that represents. So a single student may do 25 events, but that's counted as one because they are involved. So that's how the stat actually comes about. Well, looking at this one last year, we did kind of a baseline. We were up around the low 60s. This year, we hit 59%. So the scale that we developed may not have been right on because we only had 1 year of data to develop that scale. The other thing is that the definition around this, so which offices do you combine to say that somebody is involved, right? Because we have career services that do events. We have the swipe up here at recreation. We have events in housing residence life. We have events in CSI and CDI for this year, and so all these things. So we haven't come to a great definition about this yet as to what should be combined. But my guess is we're actually doing a pretty good job on this, even though it looks red. That isn't really red. We're going to call that pink. Let's call that one pink. So anyway, you get the sense is that the scorecard is a living, breathing, changeable document, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to go to the next tab, FY 2017, and then increase the size, if you will. And then go to the top. And increase it just a little more, if you will. One link. There we go. Ah, that's nice. And so this is 2017. So based on that information, what goals are we going to put forth in 2017? And so you can see the retention goal there adjusted a little bit. We're not on a 1% change scale, we're on a 0.5% change scale, right? Well, actually we are on a 1% change, we're just going to the half because of the starting point, right? So looking at this, we already kind of know we're going to be around that 72.5, 6 range. So we're going to be a little low on that one. We don't know yet the sophomore to junior progression, but if you look at it, it really, the 59% really kind of set the middle, and then we'll try to do some stretch goals with that. Keep going. There's the total enrollment. If you can see, number 3 is 13,250 to 13,349. We're going to meet our enrollment goal. We're going to be in that range someplace. Operational success, I want to tick up the needle just a little bit. If 3.9 is pretty good, we were at 3.994, so we want to hit that 4.0 in this next year in terms of the Engage West. Your engagement, your answers leading to engagement on the survey, so we have a goal for that. The number of student assistants, kind of left that the same, because again, we don't really have great data yet on this, so we're working the data to work back into what the scale might be. And then the last one there, we changed it just a little bit, but 59% wasn't acceptable to me because that was what we hit last year, and that's red. So we're going to crank that up a little bit and try to do better. We're already in the process of doing so, right? We're doing better in terms of swiping students through our events. We're having new events. Yesterday I went down to Noonan. Brittany and they're not here? Yeah. So went down to Noonan. Some of your departments participated down there. So we're cranking more of these opportunities for students to be engaged, even at a whole new campus. So I think we're going to do great in this. So any questions or any comments, thoughts about this scorecard concept and how we're utilizing it at the university? Can you see how this can be pretty clear to a president, whether I'm doing the work that I need to do? And he knows that, this is 20% of the work we do is actually represented physically on this document, but all of the work we do adds to the success that you see on the document. Any comments or questions about this? Okay, so we're going to move on. So we're going to move on to one of the items, and again, this is kind of the end product of this year's Engage West survey. So we've done all the rollouts, you've done the rollouts in your department, you have action items in your department. I already presented most of this at our divisional rollout. So these are the items in our division where we have that were the lowest scores and represented the greatest opportunities. So we already did this in the rollout, so I won't spend much time here. But the items here are the right information gets to the right people at the right time. So these are the things we need to work on. Policies are applied fairly to all faculty and staff. The university is consistent in handling issues for all employees. Again, the item of I find the university website helpful in keeping up with the latest developments. Staffing levels in the department are appropriate for the workload. UWG is effective at retaining valuable people. My pay is fair when compared to similar colleagues here at UWG with similar responsibilities. I'm paid adequately for the level of work I do. My pay is fair when compared to similar colleagues in similar organizations, and my pay keeps pace with the cost of living. So when we talked about, I'll put this one up there, this is how we fare against the university. University scores versus our divisional score. So right there where the university is, slightly below on some, the same or slightly above on all of those others. So the concept of this is, okay, when we learn from our survey about your engagement and how these items impact your engagement, then we start to think about, okay, so what can we do about that? What can I, as a vice president, do about that? What can we do about that at the department level? Because all of you have your lowest 10 items too that you're working on. And the concept is collectively, we're working on the things that are going to help you be more engaged and to help you not have barriers to your engagement. And so we decided in that earlier presentation that we had some opportunities. The lowest items center around pay. So 60% of those items, so 6 out of those 10, were somewhat related to pay. And we know that's an issue not only in higher ed, but specifically at West Georgia that we've been trying to work on for several years. Other opportunities in that list center around gathering information and then consistency of policies and handling issues. Also, I want you to remember that 5 out of those 10 ratings for our division have actually moved up. They're still in the lower 10, but we've gotten better at them. Okay, so you work at it, you get better, you come in the next year, you try to be better, you still work at it. The point is that we're trying to do something about it. We try to work on it in some way to be able to make it impactful. And so out of all of that, I've devised, and with the advice of the directors, the extended leadership team actually, when I did the rollout to them, we talked about what could I do, what could the division do to actually make some of those items better. And again, around employment, most of them around pay or employment. So the first thing we're going to do, well, these aren't in order, these aren't linear. We're going to do all these kind of at the same time. But review every job description and duties with the employee to make sure that each job is accurately described. Every employee in our division needs to be paid properly for the job that they do. And the job description for that job needs to accurately reflect the job that they do. And what happens over time, it happens in all industries, if you don't update those job descriptions, what happens is add-ons get in there, other duties that's assigned become real major duties assigned, right? And so it begins to morph. When it begins to morph, then people feel like they're not valued because they're doing more than what they originally were supposed to do, right? And so we need a recalibration. This recalibration happened a little bit this past year. So all of your directors had the opportunity to go in and look at the job description and make sure it was accurate before we did the Simpson study, before we did the equity study. And that was a responsibility, right? Still in that process, some may have been missed. More likely that they weren't missed, but they were, but we're in this process of looking at the duties. There has been a lot of reorganization in our division over this past year, so sometimes those things change and don't change. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that accurately. The only way to really do it accurately is sit down with the person actually doing the job and find out what they're doing. Now, there's a danger in that for you, in that you might be doing something you like to do that isn't in your job description and we're not paying you for, right? And so there really isn't a whole lot of negotiation of, well, let's change my job, let's reclassify me because I'm doing that. We have to be true to the job description and then pay effectively for that job description. I have a lot of confidence in Simpson, in that equity study. And the reason I have a lot of confidence in it is because it really did 8 months worth of work to make sure that what we gave them, what that looks like out in the marketplace and what people are paid. What I don't have confidence in is if our job descriptions were completely accurate before it got reviewed, right? I'm not saying wholesale they're wrong, because every time we post a new position, you have to look at that job. But there are some places that we can benefit, and that would be one of them. The second one, research functional area pay standards produced by professional organizations. So this is the other side of this, right? All of you have professional organizations within your functional area. Most of them do pay studies for the people that are jobs within your area. And most of them produce what a range of salary would be, sometimes regionally, sometimes nationally. I want to be able to look and pinpoint that as well as the Simpson study to find out where there may be differences. Now, we're in the Southeast. Traditionally, in the Southeast, it's a lower pay than other areas of our country, traditionally. You may know that. I'm not saying that's right, I'm just saying that traditionally that is the case. It's mostly because the conditions of living here are better because you have a lot of sunshine and you're close to a beach. Okay, you're not very close to a beach. But I don't know all the reasons why, but traditionally the average pay in the South is less than it has been in other areas of the country. So indexing those a little better to our professional organizations. It doesn't do any good for us to say, well, I'm a career development specialist, and if I were in California, I'd be making X, right? Because the cost of living in California is 4 times X, right? So it's not comparable in that way, so we have to be careful about that. But again, being fair about this, trying to do something about our salaries within the parameters that we have, which include our state legislature, our governor, the appropriation we get, the amount of money we're actually able to use as an institution towards this. So there are a lot of barriers, there are a lot of conditions under which we try to increase salaries. It's not a matter of what you are worth personally, that we like you as a person. It's a matter of what that job entails, and it's a matter of making sure that the pay is adequate for the job that's being done. Third one, there's a lot of confusion around the whole equity study and what we're trying to accomplish over time. This is one of the things when I talked to the directors, it was, people don't understand. So 3 years ago, the equity study was, we were trying to get at 25% of the 86th percentile and all of that. So there's all this weirdness around the description of what we were trying to do. And so I want to create a common language in our division and understanding in our vision as to what the vision is, what is the intent, and how we're trying to do that. Most of you don't know or don't really realize that there was a shift this year. In previous equity studies, we were trying to get to the minimum of the pay grades. We were trying to get the minimums of the pay grades to an appropriate level. The shift this year was that now we're trying to do a proportion of the median of the pay grade, not the minimums anymore. And so people thought, well, you know, it's a lesser percent, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's actually a bigger benefit because we're trying to do the median at the market instead of the minimums at the market. And that's a big deal, but that's not easy to understand. And we need people to come in and help us understand it. I even do. I live this stuff almost every day, and it's confusing to me. Certainly it's confusing to you. And so we want to make sure that we're getting someone in here to help us understand that, so that even when you do get, and this is a feeling that I've got, that some people have gotten equity increases, but they still kind of feel like they're being taken advantage of. Even though there's been $7.3 million put in the system, and some people's jobs have increased dramatically in terms of their pay over that time, still feels like in some way you're being taken advantage of. And we don't want that. We don't want that feeling. That takes away from engagement. If you feel like you're being taken advantage of in some way, you don't feel as good about working here, and you're not as engaged. We want you to feel good about working here. We want you to feel loyal. We want you to get the pay that you deserve. And then finally, I'm not one for goals that say continue doing something. I've talked to the directors about that when you put in your departmental goals, don't just say you're going to continue to do everything you've been doing, right? That's not a goal. That's really maintenance. But I'm going to put one on here because I think they've been beneficial. And that is continue monthly breaking down the division meetings, blogs, do semesterly staff meetings with all departments. We've been coming around to your departments. All the leadership of the division has been doing that. Yeah, we're done. And then the coffee conversations with the VPs. I've enjoyed that. I think I've heard from others that they enjoy that. We got through the first year of kind of the awkwardness, the first date type of a thing. What do you say? You don't want to offend him, and all that kind of thing. But we're through that. Now we can get to it. We can drink a lot more coffee. We need a lot more coffee, but these are opportunities for conversations. What I didn't put on here, and I should have, I don't know why I didn't think about it, I've also offered the half-hour appointments. And I've had about 8 people or so, maybe 10, take me up on that. And I love it. Gives them an opportunity to understand me a little better, gives me an opportunity to understand them a little better and get to know them a little better on a more personal level. I don't have the time to do that all the time because I'm doing things that are representing you to our university and to our university system. So that's why I've made that special time to be able to have that. I want you to take advantage of that. And I've been pleasantly surprised. Those conversations have not been, hey, I've got a beef to pick. It really has been the conversation of, where do you think this is going? Or sometimes it's a mentorship type of a thing. I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? So those are great conversations to have, and it gives you an opportunity to know me and see me differently than you may see me in my normal role, and I'm up for that. I like that. So I'm going to continue those. They've been very helpful in general, and if you have ideas how I could be better at doing that, or if there's some things that you think would be good additions to this, that would be great. This is a way, though, to combat this concept that I don't really care about you or your department, because I do, very, very much. I care about you individually, I care about you as a department, and I'm working my entire time on getting resources so you can do a better job and serve students better. That's really what I do. And want to make sure that you have an opportunity to understand that better. Okay, that is my story, and I'm sticking to it for this fall. Are there any comments, any questions that you have? We have I'm going to take 2 minutes worth of this because those of you that have 11 o'clock appointments, you want to get out of here. So, any comments, questions, additions? You just tired? Tired of hearing me talk? It's all good. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your attention today. I appreciate the work that you do to make this place great.